Good evening. This is Laura from Healthy Carnivore. Before I get into tonight's topic, I'm going to tell a little bit of my backstory for those who do not know it. I am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for a long time. I don't even remember how many years. Long time, over 23 years. Um, but when I graduated high school, I was 240 pounds, already plenty heavy. Following the advice of my pretty new doctor. He'd only been out in doctor school for just a little while, 2 years, I think, is what he said. So I was following his advice of the 90s, which was low fat, crappy chicken breast protein, no butter, no real eggs. Everything was processed, everything. I mean, he was like, Oreos and Doritos are vegan and vegetarian. And I'm like, okay. So, hey, why not? Right. So I followed his recommendations, even though knowing now he had absolutely zero nutritional education in medical school, which that's how it is. It is not a requirement, it is something they can take if they want. So I followed that diet for about 9 months and went back, had my blood work done. It looked like it had pieces of Crisco in it. It was horrific. That was triglycerides, and they were over 1,000. They don't know how high they were. That's as high as their meter went. So went to see him. Of course, he fills out a prescription for Lipitor. And when I asked how long I was going to take it, because I was young and naive, 20, thinking that, it's like an antibiotic. You take it 7 to 10 days. And he was like, no, this is forever. And I'm like, I am too young. I am not living out of a prescription bottle. Um, we discussed how food is the same thing as gasoline for a car, because that's kind of what it is. It is your fuel. And he absolutely point blank said, what you put in your mouth has nothing to do with how your body runs. um, that forced me to be like, I don't really trust that. I didn't trust them anyway. I already knew about the Rockefellers in 1910, around that time frame, what had happened, Carnegie families and stuff like that. So I was already questioning the man, I guess is what you would call that. Um, and so I just went and did tons of old fashioned research in a library in my town and really kind of came down to carbohydrates, sugar, simple starches, things like that just seemed like that was the issue when you read veterinarian books or regular medical books up to 1910. So from 1850 to 1910. And they had all the same verbiage that they use now that we think sounds so fancy. And I'm like, they knew that in 1850. Like it's crazy. Okay. So they haven't come a long way, baby. Okay. So anyway, that made me go home, get rid of all the white junk and all the processed foods. And in 9 months' time, with no exercise other than just going to work and walking to the mailbox, which was less than half a city block, I had lost 153 pounds. And yeah, just completely changed my life. I went back to have my blood work done and see him again. And of course, he was like patting himself on the back and stating how great Lipitor was, which will never make you drop weight ever. That is not what it does. What it does is poison you. But anyway, he was super happy with himself. He was just like, this is great. And I was like, I didn't fill your prescription. That's when he sat back in his chair and he was mad. And I don't mean little mad, I mean big mad, big, big mad. Um, and basically told me I was going to die a fat ass that day. So I lost almost 200 pounds that day because I did fire him. I was nice enough, but I also let him know how ashamed of him I was that he did not know how the human body worked and that I, as a 20-year-old factory worker building semis, had to go and figure it out myself the old fashioned way. There was no computers. I mean, they might have had one computer there, but I sure the hell didn't know how to use it. And so, yeah, so that's how that happened. I basically ate what you would call keto for 28 total years. I did 26 years of it clean. What we hunted, what we fished, what was in the garden, what grew naturally, nothing that was, sprayed with chemicals, none of that stuff. So when I say grew naturally, I mean like mulberry trees, things like that. Trees that we had that we could control what we put on them. Now, you can't control everything that's in the sky that gets on them, but you can control what you spray on them or put in the ground. Um, and so that's what I did. And it was amazing. And the last 2 years, though, as these people always do, they figured out a way to capitalize on people that were eating keto and started making keto treats. And I am not a moderator. I am not the person who can eat one bar of anything that is sweet, that tastes like a cookie or like a s'more, and think that I'm not going to eat another one and another one and another one. I just don't have that control. So I am best when I just completely abstain from those things. Um, so I was watching a video. I was scrolling through Facebook as we do on the couch before bed, and came across Joe Rogan and Dr. Sean Baker. And I was like, what's this ox of a guy have to say? And he was talking carnivore. And I was like, well, I'm really close to that now. How hard could that be? And what advantages could that do for me? So I I did not really research a whole lot of that. I just was like, I'm doing this. And the next day, that's what I did. Pretty quickly, I got rid of cystic acne that I was starting to get thanks to progesterone leaving my body quicker than anything else. Thank you, menopause. And I basically got rid of the joint pain the fastest. I actually gained 10 pounds in the beginning when I first started. Now I know that that was due to healing and putting on bone and muscle, even without trying. I was putting on bone and muscle. Um, I did eventually lose that plus more without even trying, but I just fixed like depression, anxiety, decreased my OCD. I do retain a little OCD as a nurse. I think that's something that you need to have. So flash forward before I became a carnivore, during my clinicals, I was up in the open heart cath lab, heart transplant floor, and a said doctor's name come across to be one of my patients that day, post a five-way bypass that he had already had. Um, and I was like, thank you, baby Jesus. Not because I wanted him to have any suffering or pain, because I don't want that for anybody, but it was like, aha, now I can be like, here's n equals one experiment. There's your n equals one experiment. And what do you know? So we went over stuff. That first day, he didn't have any choice but to listen because he was still intubated. He was slow to get off the machines. He really was. But he was extremely, massively huge. He was type 2 diabetes, which is a known side effect of long term use of statins, and needed to have a five-way bypass. So obviously, not eating the fat and taking the statins for 35 years really didn't help him in the least. So didn't really talk. I mean, we talked about keto pretty deep and the stuff, and he finally remembered who I was when I told him the last statement he had said to me before I fired him. But a few years later, he ran into my mother out at the hospital and wanted my phone number. And my mother is ever so intelligent and was like, I think I'll give her your phone number. And so I waited a couple months and then I called him, and he was very surprised that I called him. He says, oh, I thought you forgot about me. And I said, exactly. This is for at least 7 appointments that I had set up at 8 o'clock, because that's what time you open. And I wasn't seen till after 9:15 on any of those appointments. So your time is valuable and so is mine. And so that was just a karma, I think. Just let you know that you're not the only person out there. And that's true with all of us. Nobody is more important than the next one. But we did go back and forth emails and phone calls, and he went keto and was able to reverse his type 2 diabetes. He took himself off the statin very quickly. Brain fog cleared up massively. He said that was very quick, lost a ton of weight. got to and he's very tall, so he could hold a good 240 pounds and look absolutely great. Um, and I'm not sure where it sits now because, after that, um, I really didn't stay in contact. There really wasn't any reason. I figure I'd given him the information he needed, and we were not gonna be friends at all. And so that's where we have left things. So, I just say that as to, I got to go back and actually see where somebody had listened to their own advice, where it had led them, and then changing their diet, how it had changed them. So, just to let you know, it can be changed by what you eat because we are nothing but combustion motors. So, I'm going to go back real quick and just see who's here. So, Simpson is here. Hello. Hey, Tara. Freethinker is here. Running is here. Awesome. Dawn's here. Jack, hello. T, how are you doing? Hey, I got your package ready. It goes out in the morning because the mail was closed today. Um, Running. Yeah, imagine a doctor saying that. Yeah, actually, they say worse now than even what he said back then. I've had several patients that tell me how their doctors talk to them and what they say now, and it's craziness. Um, he was definitely a doofus. Hey, Cheryl, how are you? Let's see. Hey, Squeaky. I can't believe I caught you live. Stopwatch Blue Handheimer. That's good. That's good. Hey, Victoria. Less junk, more health. I agree. I agree. All right. Well, let's go over tonight's talk. I really don't like to talk about myself to that degree, but I do. I've had so many people like if I shorten that up and I don't give a bunch of information, they're just like, well, how do you know what you know? And yeah. So anyway, I just give that. Sometimes I shorten it up. Today I just did not. Okay, so today's talk is going to be over something I think a lot of people actually have, and they have not been diagnosed with this. It's called eosinophilic esophagitis. So for short, it's EOE. So this is chronic. It is immune antigen driven. It's inflammation just of your esophagus where white blood cells called eosinophils build up in the esophagus lining. Over time, this causes irritation, narrowing, strictures. So I don't know if you know of anybody who's ever had to have like their esophagus stretched. What's that called? Dilatation. I was like, I know I've sent patients for that in the nursing home. Now that can happen because of acid reflux coming up and causing issues too, but I think a lot of times it's this. And they can have swallowing problems where stuff gets stuck. And it's up above the epiglottis where a lot of times this happens. So there is no single blood test, of course, for this. So diagnosis really usually involves everybody's favorite, an upper endoscopy, and that's just where they give you some happy medicine, some usually fentanyl, Versed, sometimes propofol, so you just don't remember what they've done. They put a bite plate in, and then they go and take a tube that's about that big around with the camera and look at stuff. Um, so an upper endoscopy with biopsy. So they're going to do a tissue grab. So they have a little thing on the end of that where they can do that. So this shows eosinophil filtration of greater than 15. That means that you're that far above the normal. That would be a positive finding. Endoscopic finding rings, so trachealization, where you have linear furrows, and it really will look like that. It'll look like little tracks through the sand. White strictures, which they'll be able to easily see on endoscopy, but you'll have like white strictures, which I think is more of a scarring that you're getting because of that constant inflammation in those areas. Allergy evaluation. So you can do like the skin prick, you can do the IgE patch testing. It can sometimes help and be like, yeah, look at you have all these. My eosinophils stay very, very super low. But when I was a kid, a teenager especially, they were crazy high all the time. Of course, I was eating milk and bacon and ham and all these things that now I know I cannot eat. And some people can eat them. I just cannot eat those things. But my eosinophils would be off the chart. Anytime they did my blood work, everything would look great. CBC, everything else was fine in it till we got down to the eosinophils. And then they would just be off the chart, like 300. I mean, it was crazy high. Um, so food triggers are not all the only thing. It could be allergies to dust, cats, dogs, dander, all the things that you could be allergic to could be causing it too. So EOE is thought to be a mix of food allergies, environmental allergies, and immune dysfunction. Common triggers, my favorite: dairy, wheat, gluten, soy, eggs, nuts, and shellfish. Environmentals are the different pollens, the dust, the molds, things like that. So the gut barrier dysfunction is another thing. If your gut barrier is working as it's supposed to, this will be held at bay longer, if that makes sense. When you have dysfunction or dysregulated immune signaling, it's going to open you up to get this along with many other things, eczema, psoriasis, all the things. So elimination diets, which is kind of what I have done with myself, removing common allergens are often the easiest, cheapest first thing to do. I'm not about going out and spending a bunch of money. If you can do something that's free, like fasting, free, cutting back on certain foods, free. So that is what I would probably do, and I would start out like I flipped over to carnivore very quickly. A lot of people need to do like ketogenic and then carnivore and then even lion diet where they eat like ruminant meats and then introduce foods one thing at a time for a week to kind of see how their body works with that. Um, this could help because, for one, if going ketogenic at all, whether it be keto, ketovore, carnivore, lion, doesn't matter, that will remove all processed foods. Okay. So it'll remove gluten, it'll remove seed oils, and it will remove most plant allergens. Now, if you're doing keto, it's not going to necessarily get rid of all of them. But if you do like a fermented vegetable, you're going to decrease that allergen a lot. So that may be something to look at. Now, with carnivore, it's especially going to eliminate because it's going to get rid of all those toxins and allergens, which may reduce the inflammation in some, but not in everybody, because we're all definitely not the same. Um, let's see. So I was looking at a case report and some of the what they call anecdotal stories, because you can have 10,000 anecdotal studies, but they always say, well, it doesn't count. So we'll just go with anecdotal stories that show improvement, but large studies they haven't done on this because there is nothing to gain from large studies in these. If they were trying to come out with a medication that they knew didn't cure this, but managed it, there would be studies out there galore, but there's no money in it to be done that way. So, role of oxalates. I don't know. I'm sure most of you know what oxalates are, but I will tell you, some people react to oxalates worse than others. I know a lot of people that can go out there and eat spinach right out of their garden and they're fine. They can eat almonds, they're fine. I cannot do that. I cannot. Um, I don't really like spinach anyway, unless it's teeny tiny and put on a salad back in the day, but I'm not going to sit out there and eat it unless it's covered with something that makes it taste good. So, high oxalate foods, which are spinach, almonds, potatoes, those things may irritate the gut lining and increase inflammation. So, while it's not proven as a direct cause of EOE, reducing oxalates, you'll be able to see if you reduce those types of foods and that improves, then that's pretty much proof for you that that might have been the cause is the oxalates for yourself. Um, and also by removing those can help decrease the overall immune activation. Now we want our immune system to work, but we don't want it to go into hyper overdrive because that's when we get all these other issues, as I was saying, like eczema, psoriasis, things like that. Um, yeah. The other thing is high carb diet. So highly refined carbs promotes systemic inflammation. Okay. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be in your sinuses. It's going to be in your joints. It's just everywhere. Gut. Um, it causes systemic inflammation, dysbiosis, and leaky gut. All can worsen immune driven conditions. Okay. So you may already have a touch of these things. And then when you get this on top of it, it's going to cause a massive flare, massive flare. Also, high carb intake may indirectly worsen reflux. So, I have had people who are like, I'm still getting this acid reflux all the time. They're not eating for like 4 hours before bed. They have the head of their bed up. They've done all these things. This is usually my next go to. Let's see if this is the issue, when we've got rid of the other stuff. So, um, in short, EOE is diagnosed via endoscopy, so the little tube down the throat with the camera and the little snapper, and biopsy is going to be the most, like, for sure. But again, I don't usually go for something like that unless it's massively warranted. I don't like any of the medicine that they give you to do any of these procedures because of how long it takes for your body to work through those. So it's one of those where you can do an experiment to remove those kinds of things and see if you have a decrease in that. The other thing you would want to do is you're going to want to fix the gut lining. That may be with like probiotic. Let's say you make L-Reuteri yogurt, or you do like collagen, you do gelatin, things like that that help promote healing of that area. Fasting is one of the fastest things you can do to help heal yourself and boost your immune system. And it's free and you save money. So why not? So, most of the time, like we said earlier, with this condition, most of the time it is triggered by food or environmental allergens. So, a ketogenic carnivore type approach it will help by lowering inflammation and removing the food triggers. So, oxalates and high carbs make symptoms much worse in susceptible people. And I would say most all of us are susceptible. If we do things long enough, we're going to run into those issues. So I think any of us could absolutely end up with this, and we do not want that. So let me just go back and see. Oh, Barrett's esophagus. Okay, so Cheryl says her husband has Barrett's esophagus and has had his throat stretched twice and needs it again. Um, with his Barrett's esophagus, did they say whether they thought like people who do chewing tobacco, smokers, and people who drink, and it doesn't even have to be high alcohol, just some drinking, that they tend to be the ones who get that. So I just wonder if they know his cause. Um, and yes, he'll, as long as he has that, and yes, Barrett's esophagus can go away. My husband had it. Um, we've been together 15 years and he had it. He didn't go to the doctor for 14 years prior to me when we started dating. And then he went one time, maybe a year after we were dating, and he was diagnosed with Barrett's esophagus. And we started fixing what I could fix. What he would not fix is one thing. And when he went back 3 years later, it was gone. So, and he's had an upper and a lower every 5 years since then. I do not. I do not do them. If I have an issue, then I will go, but I am not going just because I don't want to have a perforation. And yes, it can happen, and it happens quite often. So Breezy says, my eosinophils are high in my blood and I'm mostly carnivore. So if your eosinophils are high in your blood, I would be guesstimating that it's environmental. Now, I'm highly allergic to mold, and it is one that you will see your eosinophils go up. So that may be something to look for, is to see if that's a possibility that you have that in your environment. I would try to do that. Let's see. I was just asking ChatGPT, LOL. I also have Reynolds. Okay, so you said Reynolds, but I think you mean Raynaud's. I'm just asking to make sure. I want to clarify, Breezy, that you're saying Raynaud. So that's the fingers and toes that you have microvascular deficiency, so you turn purple, like purpley, and your hands get cold and your feet get cold. They keep you up at night. So I would increase my magnesium glycinate, and I would take it about half an hour to an hour before bed. You can also make a magnesium gel, cream, or spray with like castor oil and rub that into your legs, your hands. And you could put a little cayenne pepper, just don't touch your eyeball. Okay. The cayenne pepper helps open up the blood vessels. This is not medical advice. This is just what I would do. Okay. Cheryl says choose tobacco, but doesn't want to do anything, which is okay. That's okay, Cheryl. That's what I figured. That's what my husband's cause was as well, was that. So we were able to get rid of that. Um, and once we did that and got him off of seed oils, I was so excited yesterday. He cooked fish kind of for Valentine's dinner. Was that yesterday or the day before? I don't know. They're all blending at this point. Um, I believe it was Saturday. He cooked it in lard. Yeah, it was amazing. And it reheated so well. He was like, I don't know about this. I'm like, I have kept so much lard and so much tallow. I'm like, just try it. Just try it one time. Just one time. I should have called like a guy friend and said, hey, tell him that you use this and then he'll use it. But anyway, he did it and he was totally happy with it. But getting rid of seed oils did help as much as possible. So yeah. Best way to test for mold. There are several things that you can do. You can, I'm not sure in your area where you live, but like we have a company called Peters Heating and Air, and they do have a thing that they can come in and do an air quality test. They can test like the air that's coming through your ductwork of your heater, stuff like that. That's a lot of times where mold likes to hide, is inside there. But then, I mean, it can be anywhere in the house. It could be like I have the only and my eosinophils go up is in the fall when they're taking down all the fields and driving past my house to take them and dump them off. When they do that at the elevator, my eosinophils go crazy. I get real sinusy and I get a sore throat from all the crap rolling down the back of my throat because of that, because I'm super allergic to that stuff. Let's see. So I would do that. You can also check, I think, and I don't know if Walgreens has it. You might go on to like an Amazon and check to see about different types of mold testing. I don't think it's super expensive. I didn't have to do it for the house we're living in because the basement was wet when I first moved in, and we've since remedied that. And then I went down there all the time and sprayed white vinegar everywhere. My basement smelled like salad dressing, but it worked, much more than like bleach. So that's what I would do. Yep. And Diamond, Kat was saying that she switched to the L-threonate, and that will also help. So yes, magnesium glycinate or L-theanate, those are going to be my two favorite go-tos. Let's see. Hire a certified mold assessor if they are in your state. Yes, you can do that. They're pretty expensive, at least the ones that I know of. But sometimes um, you can do that. So I think that would be where I would start. If you're already doing primarily carnivore, or go for 2 weeks and do only carnivore, cut out everything else. Like I would do one thing at a time. I would clear out everything, see how that goes. If that works well, you know your answer. If you do that and you're like, I feel great, but I still have this, then I would definitely go to have the mold looked at. All right. So if you did enjoy this, please like, share, subscribe, hit the little notification bell. Once in a blue moon, it actually tells people when I'm going live. My husband gets a notification about once every 3 or 4 weeks when I go live. But I am going to go over next week's talk. So the next one is going to be over holistic, functional, commonly what is supportive dosing guidance for all of the different supplements out there. Doesn't mean you have to take any of them, doesn't mean you have to take all of them. It's just going to give you some basic, this is what I would do. Again, not medical advice. I'm a nurse. Thank God. That's all I ever want to be is a nurse. The only thing that I would say that every person that I love in my family, um, is on K2D3. So that one is non-negotiable in my household. That one I don't ask. I just put in the thing and that's what they do. Oh, good. Breezy said she got a notification. Yay. Good, good, good. Yeah, no more seed oils, tea. That's exactly right. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna get off here and spend a little bit of time with my hubby because I had the day off and he did not. So I did get a lot of crocheting done. I almost have my next graduate from home health blanket done. So very, very close. Thank you guys for being here. And I will see you guys next week. As I always say, meet, heat, eat, and repeat. See ya.